SweetGeorgiaPam.com is the website. We call it her hub. That is where you can find out all about Pam. You can subscribe to her beautiful newsletter. You can also get a free guide to help you remember your dreams. And that's what we're here about, is dreaming. And so I am so excited now that we have grown to the point that we actually have a listener who is joining us on the podcast today. So Pam, I'm going to well, first of all, Pam, hi, love. How are you?
Oh, hi. I'm good. Thanks. You
I
and
was
I are
rushing right in.
we're falling down on the priority list because we have a guest and we're both like tickled pink.
I
So,
know. So go ahead. I'll let
okay,
you introduce her.
super. I'm like taking on the Melissa role now, which the roles are reversed. Hey, Jen, this is Jen Baldwin. And Jen chimed up on TikTok with a comment where she just asked, like, do you ever unpack dreams with on the show with people? And I was like, oh, Jen wants to maybe come on the show. I should ask if she wants to be a guest. So I did. I reached out and so Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what I thought we would do is let's just start with maybe you tell me or us a little bit about dreams and what made you comment and what you where you are in your relationship with dreaming, and we'll start there.
So yeah, I've been dreaming very heavily since I was probably in my teens, and I never really processed them well. I always thought, well, they're just dreams, and move along. And I was a busy teen and didn't think much of it. And then in my early 20s, I started getting dreams that were more like people would visit me that had crossed over or about to cross over. And
Wow.
my husband was very unnerved by that because he didn't really believe in that kind of thing. And I wouldn't say I brushed it off, but I took it more like with a grain of salt, and I didn't really know until my grandpa died. And I knew that night, I woke up in the middle of the night and I knew that he had died. And my husband was like, I'm sure he's fine. And my mom called about 5 o'clock in the morning and said that he had passed. So
Wow.
I then started to take it a little more seriously.
Mhm.
And since then, I've just been writing things down and trying to figure out if that has something to do with my daily life, or is it something, more on the wide scope of things.
I like the way that you said that. More on
Yeah.
the wide scope of things, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to first of all first I want to say hi to all of the listeners, and I want to kind of give you an understanding that this is really just like a one-on-one. So Jen and I, all of these questions that are coming up for me, I'm taking notes, jotting things down. I'm going to just throw these questions out and we're just going to see where this conversation leads. I did ask Jen to bring a dream, so hopefully we'll get to like one maybe dream start to finish to unpack. But I just want to validate that experience for you. I went through sort of the same transition from dreams are just, a normal process. They don't mean anything. They're just part of my sleeping. Thank goodness, whatever. And then sort of transitioned the way that you did to, wait a minute, is there more to this? To having experiences where I was like, oh no, there's more to this. Like, what don't I know?
Well, they would get increasingly complex too, where I would feel like I was traveling all night. I felt like, gosh, there's a lot to these dreams. And I'd wake up and I was pretty much tired, like I'd just gotten off a flight or something. But, and then I kind of started to lucid dream. And when I did that, I was looking for things to like read, in my dream,
in the
like
dream.
a letter or there was some kind of journal or signs or whatever, I would, read them and try to remember exactly what they said. And most of the time I just got bits and pieces, but would wake up and definitely write it down.
Yeah. Well, hi, new friend. I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the question becomes, how do you discern what is daily life content, what is a little bit more on the wider field, what's a little bit more meta. And then what do you do with all of that, right? So let's go to one dream. If you brought one with you, let's start there, and then we can use that as an example to kind of talk through how do you pick and choose. I'll tell you up front, my goal is to normalize the whole process.
Okay.
So that over time, you and people out there listening just accept that dreams have the capacity to drop us into those places and give us more information to fuel our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And some information is more potent and powerful than others. But if you're learning a new language, you don't pick and choose the important conversations or the important sentences to practice. You want to practice interpreting every word, right?
Okay.
So let's hear a dream. What'd you bring for us?
Okay, so I picked a dream that's a recurring dream, which I don't have many of, but this one I've had for the last 10 years. I've probably had it about 5 or 6 times. And I'll preface it by saying it's all in black and white. And all of my dreams are in color normally.
Oh, interesting.
So it takes place in Spain. I'm either coming to Spain or I'm leaving Spain, and I'm not sure which. And I'm at a bus or a train station, and there's very cobbled streets. And in the middle of the street, there's a railway track. I wouldn't say it's as large as a railway track, but maybe a trolley track.
Okay.
And I've got a giant suitcase. It's probably bigger than me. And I'm trying to pull it over the cobbled streets. I think I might have low high heels on. And in the middle of the tracks, my suitcase bursts open and clothes go flying everywhere. And it's like a clown car where there's too many clothes. And they're all very colorful clothes.
Wow. So in the dream, the color does show up in the clothing.
And that's it. And I am so distraught, and nobody's helping me, and everybody's just kind of looking at me like that poor lady's gonna have a big mess to clean up there. And it just kind of ends. And I think one of the things is I think that the colors are so vibrant. It's almost like I haven't seen those colors before.
Wow.
And I'm just distraught over it. And what's funny to me is in my real life, I'm pretty much a minimalist. My closet is so small, and like the more clothes, the more headache for me.
Okay.
So, and also that I've never been to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
I am apparently 10% Spanish Portuguese. And I only found that out, by my DNA test. So
can I jump in for a second? So when you talk about that, did this recurring dream happen before you found out your heritage?
Yes.
Okay.
It did.
Nice.
Sorry, Pam.
No, it's good. Yeah. Okay. So beautiful. So beautiful. So the first things that come up that I really want to point out are the associations that you've already made for this dream. So, and I want to name the elephant in the room, which is the wondering, the mystical side of this, which is this past life stuff? Is this part of my hair? Is this my ancestors who are, I've got this luggage and I'm carrying their clothing or their persona or their style? Like I've inherited some of that with me. So there's this, there's the mystical side that's already making a suggestion of itself in the dream.
And the more I know, I'm a genetic genealogist. So the more I know about ancestry and all of that, the more I can add to that dream that we carry 13 generations with us.
Wow.
So maybe that is 13 generations.
Yeah. So if that resonates, so the way that this works is brainstorm is, if this were my dream, these would be the things that I would wonder about. These would feel like the really important parts, whatever. So your job as the dreamer is to see what resonates for you. And if I suggest something and it just feels really dull, then you let that one go and you kind of feel for your own inner aha. It sounds like you've already got a little bit of.
A little bit, yep.
Okay. All right. So then what I want to do is I want to take that as the key or the cue, and I want to unpack the rest of this dream. So from that lens of, of toting around maybe 13 generations of ancestry, or toting around the 10% Spain, Portuguese heritage. Okay. What feels important in the rest of the dream is there's a couple of places where this is about transition. For example, I don't know if I'm coming or I'm going, but I'm either coming or leaving. And I'm toting the suitcase across the way. Like I'm in transition with the suitcase, and it's midway across the tracks when it bursts open.
Yeah.
All of those suggest I'm in a, what's the word? It's not transition. What's the, what's the doorway called? What's the middle of the doorway?
Precipice.
That's, yes. I feel like I'm like now playing like, guess the word.
Can't even think of the word for the game.
My brain is like flickering off like a light bulb right now. All right. So I want to say portal, but that's not the word I'm trying to think of. Anyway, so there's 3 or 4 different ways that is symbolized in the dream. I'm either coming or I'm leaving. The point that the suitcase burst open is mid-track. Okay. So the next thing that I want to go to is the emotions in the dream. So dreams contextualize our emotions.
Yeah.
So looking at this as potentially part of the heritage that's I'm lugging around or I'm carrying, because we think of baggage as emotional baggage or inherited baggage. The emotion that you feel is distraught. And the reason that you feel distraught, it sounds like to me, is twofold. And you tell me if this is correct. It sounds like I'm distraught because these clothes are not necessarily, it's going to take a whole lot to get these clothes back into the suitcase where I can continue to carry them. And I'm distraught because nobody around seems to be helping me.
Yes.
Okay. How many people would you say are around?
Quite a lot. I would say 200 people.
Okay. Oh, I love that number. Okay. So in dream interpretation, when you're working with dreams like this, and you don't necessarily have a hard number, but you have a suggested amount, then we take that suggested amount as if it is the number that we're going to interpret. Okay. So, same goes for any other clarification questions. If you're like, I don't know, but it felt like this, well, then we use that as part of the interpretation, because your unconscious mind is a continuation of your conscious waking mind. And so they're talking to each other. The symbols that your unconscious mind chose right now and the waking mind idea of 200 people is really synced up.
Yeah.
So I think about 13 generations, I think about ancestry, and I think about 200 years ago. All of that feels like that lays in quite nicely.
Yeah, it does.
So, Okay, so to speed this up, because we have like when we do sessions, it's like an hour session, and we really get in and dig all of these things up, and really nail down the details, right? But to project where we already seem to be on the track of interpreting this dream. With a recurring dream, it happens to come up when you experience a certain type of emotion that is an emotional pattern in your waking life. So for the past 10 years or so, this particular type of distraught might surface again 5 or 6 times over the last 10 years. So it might be worth some time, if this were my dream, to look back over the 10 years, see if I can pinpoint when the dreams were happening and what was going on in my life around those times. And
Right.
look for that particular felt experience of, I've got surprise in there, I've got overwhelm, like there's too much, and then I've got this like sense of I need some help. So maybe in those times, there's an invitation to ask for help, right? If you can connect it to waking life somehow.
Right.
And the second part of that is that since you have a sense that this is related to your heritage, or you have a sense that this is related to your Spanish heritage, there might be something in the real world that you can integrate or incorporate to address that issue that came up in the dreams. The easiest example is to go to a market and find something from Spain that you could purchase, that you could have in your house as a visual reminder of, oh, right, I've got my ancestors with me, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So knowing that this is a fast forward process, I want to kind of see where any of that landed for you, if you could help us understand where you are right now with that.
So I do feel like you're pretty on the money there, probably. And while you were talking, I was thinking, oh, and it's probably black and white because I don't know that part of my heritage. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who it came from. I mean, I have a suspicion it's on my dad's side, but I feel like I don't know that side well, and I don't know who that specific person was that was of Spanish or Portuguese descent. And so maybe that's why it's black and white. I know most of my heritage anyway.
Yeah.
But and the clothes, I think, represent something very overwhelming to me, maybe. And digging into that is probably something that at that time I felt was overwhelming. I haven't had this dream in a few years, but I've had at least 5 or 6 times. And also, as you were talking, I was thinking, oh, it's 2023 now. I think my first DNA test was in 2013. So that's a 10-year, loop.
Nice. Right.
And coming and going, yeah, I think it's all very, I don't even know the word. It's kind of like, it's not neither here nor there. There's no exact time or place. I just know how I feel in the dream, right? While I'm not too concerned about the people not helping me, I'm panicked and everything, but I'm not really that concerned that they're not helping me. And I'm not embarrassed necessarily. I'm just overwhelmed by it all.
That's a beautiful unpacking of where you are with that. Thank you for being willing to share all of that with us. My goal with doing dream work like this is that, this is a joint process. And so for you, what I'm hoping is that as we open this, it actually becomes a deeper, an invitation to go even deeper with it, right? Because you've even been able to dial those emotions in more specifically. So when you're in that state, it's not that I'm looking for the people to come. It's that I'm totally overwhelmed that this is popped open and the clothing is now all over the place and I've got a big job ahead of me. So that sense of overwhelm, then it helps you kind of sift through and filter out what's not true. That's why I talk about how dreams are showing us a version of truth that we haven't fully grasped yet, right?
Yeah.
I love that connection of the black and white and the color. The other thing that comes up in response is that the color then would represent something that's yours, right? So once it busts open, the stuff inside, now this is yours to carry. This is yours to deal with. This is your, load to manage.
Well, the fact that there were so many clothes coming out of the suitcase, and one thing I remember, and now I'm thinking also, is how is this all going to fit? So how does this fit with me? You know, how am I going to put it all back in place?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to go back the way it was. Obviously, there was no way all those clothes were going to fit back in that suitcase the way they were. So that's interesting.
That's like the leading edge now. That's what you lean into going forward. And that's the unanswered question that you get to sort of live into and figure out. Oh,
and I haven't been to Spain or Portugal, and we actually had a trip planned before COVID hit, and we had to cancel it. So
yeah,
I'm gonna get there, and I'm gonna go straight to the train bus station and see what it looks like, because I want to know what it looks like.
Dude, if it looks just like your dream, right? Then somebody was pulling you there. And then it goes back to what Pam said earlier about, and then you get something from while you're there, and you bring it back.
Aren't we all now invested in Jen's story? I say this, I'm like, now I'm a cheerleader of your story. Please update us.
Will you seriously, when you go to Spain and come back, will you be on the show again? Because we'd love to get a follow-up.
Yeah. I can't wait to get there and see what I need to see and make it fit for me.
Yeah.
Jen, thank you. Jen and Pam, and the other thing to me that I got out of it was 13 generations, right? So if you're somebody that has children, my thought was, oh my gosh, you are extending your existence for 13 generations. I didn't think about that. That's it. That's immortality right there.
All the things they've gone through are in your cells.
Wow. Well, now I'm going to have to sit with that and think, how much is my stuff and how much is this baggage I'm taking? sweetgeorgiapam.com is the website to find out how you can participate. You can be on the show, or you can do the one-on-one session. Like Pam said, it's an extended, this was a small truncated version of what she will do with you one-on-one. Again, sweetgeorgiapam.com. Plus, if you're having a problem remembering your dreams, you're the opposite of Jen. Then there's a free guide called 6 Nights to Better Dream Recall that you can download there. Sweet Georgia Pam is on social media. DM her. Sweet Georgia Pam is her handle. And Jen is from Colorado. So thank you so much. Pam and I are in Atlanta. So wherever you are, we'll make it work. And we want you on the show. So Jen, thank you so much. And Pam, thank you so much.
Oh my God. This has been so fun, Jen. Thanks for your willingness to come and let us play.
It was nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Too.